The path to a repeat will be daunting. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Discussion, debate, and analysis right here with us. The College Football Show comes your way each and every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Give me a call. Let's look at Ohio State's 2025 schedule. Keeping in mind that the Buckeyes did not play anybody with a pulse in the non-conference play in 2024. Got into the Big Ten, dropped 2 games, still went to the playoff, and then went on a remarkable run to win the national championship. It's a much younger team, of course, with just about as much talent, but not nearly the proven talent. But let's look at the non-conference schedule, and it starts with a mammoth showdown at the Shoe against Texas. These two have put on quite the limited series here since 2005, the last time the Horns came to the Shoe and won in dramatic fashion behind the right arm of Vince Young. Buckeyes won in Austin in 2006. Fiesta Bowl went to Texas in 2008. And then, of course, the Buckeyes with the huge semifinal win in Dallas en route to a national championship. Arch Manning running the controls for Steve Sarkisian. Texas, Ohio State, August 30th. The Grambling State football program made famous by the great Eddie Robinson, and Ohio State and Grambling State meet for the first time on September 6th in Columbus, followed by a date against Ohio. The 2024 MAC champions at 11-3, a new head coach Brian Smith, the previous offensive coordinator taking over for a program built by Tim Albin. This will not necessarily be an easy out for the Buckeyes. Ohio takes on Rutgers and Ohio State out of the Big Ten. Then it's a bye week and on into Big Ten play and traveling all the way to Seattle, a trip that Ohio State had on its schedule for 2024 for an out-of-conference date against the Pac-12's Huskies. That got canceled, and here we are just a couple years later, and Ohio State will play at Washington. This has been quite the series going back to the 1980s with these teams last playing in the 2018 Rose Bowl. And it is Damon Williams taking over at quarterback for Washington with Jedd Fisch in his second season, September 27th in Seattle, followed by a date against Minnesota. Ohio State has dominated this series, as you can see. Gophers coming off a strong 8-5 season against a difficult schedule. New quarterback in play as Drake Lindsey and Zach Pyron battle it out to be Max Brosmer's heir apparent. And then we've got the October 11th date. The Illabuck is back in play, one of the trophy games, the oldest trophy game, I believe, in the Big Ten. I might be wrong about that, but it is certainly a historic one that goes back to the early days of Big Ten play. And Illinois coming off a remarkable 10-3 season bowl victory against South Carolina, host Ohio State. It's been a few years since these two teams got together. October 18th, a date at Wisconsin to take on the reeling Badgers, coming off a 7-6 and then 5-7 under Luke Fickell last year, of course. One-time Buckeye head coach, interim head coach, assistant coach, coordinator, and player. Billy Edwards, the new quarterback coming in, most likely will be the starter after his starting season at Maryland. Buckeyes last won this meeting 24-20 in 2023, and they have dominated this series as of late. Bye week leads into the home stretch in November against Penn State. Of course, the Nittany Lions came within a field goal, possible overtime situation of going to the national championship game and playing Ohio State in a rematch. The Buckeyes are 12-1 against this program since 2012, 10-1 against James Franklin, but with Drew Aller back, the two studs at running back, an offensive line that looks to be mammoth and exceptional and experienced. Penn State should be the favorite in the Big Ten, I would think. That will be a showdown, of course, as it always is. At Purdue is next for the Buckeyes. The Boilers were awful. Exit Ryan Williams after just 2 seasons. Could not defeat an FBS team. They went 0-11 against FBS teams. Barry Odom, former head coach at Missouri, where he went about 500 and then did a really strong job at UNLV, takes over in West Lafayette. UCLA coming off 5-7 in its first season in the Big Ten under first-year head coach Deshaun Foster. That is the Buckeyes matchup at the Shoe on November 15th. The last two times that UCLA and Ohio State got together, that was a home-and-home series in 1999. Buckeyes won 41-20, but dropped the trip out to the Rose Bowl in the 2001 season. Jim Tressel's first campaign in Columbus, 13-6 in that one. UCLA, Ohio State, of course, there is a Rose Bowl history there. The Bruins denied Ohio State of a national championship in 1975 with Dick Vermeil on the sideline. Rutgers has been a rag doll for Ohio State to throw around since entering the Big Ten in 2014. The Buckeyes have won 10 straight against the Scarlet Knights, coming off a respectable 7-6, another bowl season for Greg Schiano. The Buckeyes, though, in addition to just winning 10 straight, they've outscored Rutgers 51-11 per game average. Ethan Kalkumanis, the best Rutgers quarterback in at least a decade. Second to last game of the season, Ohio State hosting Rutgers before the trip up north to take on Michigan. Can the Buckeyes break the streak? Michigan owns the series right now. 4 straight wins for Michigan, despite Ohio State, of course, marching on to the national championship. Michigan still has bragging rights. Is this a must-win situation for Ohio State? Well, unfortunately, it's become a situation where most likely it's not. It is a bragging rights game. But if Ohio State trips up a couple times, they could be playing for their playoff lives, as could Michigan in this one. But it becomes more about playoff ramifications and seeding than it does about winning Big Ten championships, and that being the entry into a national championship scenario. One of the main focuses of our scheduling series right here at the Voice of College Football is to match up what happened in 2024 versus 2025, meaning how different is the schedule for each of these teams as we start out in the Big Ten. And for Ohio State, it's considerably a different schedule this season. They only play 3 of the same opponents from 2024, Penn State, Purdue, and of course Michigan. In 2024, the schedule included Oregon, Iowa, Indiana, and of course the Buckeyes lost the games to the Ducks, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Northwestern. Those combined records total 32-22 in the Big Ten. Replace those games with Illinois, Minnesota, Rutgers, Washington, Wisconsin, UCLA. Now, could the next Indiana emerge from that conglomerate of teams? Possibly, although Illinois, you would think, would take a step back. Maybe Wisconsin's better than 5-7, although on the surface, this pretty much looks like the same array of teams that we saw in 2025. And this collection of teams went 25-29. So minus Oregon, minus Iowa, minus Indiana, and even minus Nebraska, who should be better this year, it appears as though Ohio State has an easier schedule. Now, any scheduling difference becomes null and void to a certain extent with the team as talented as Ohio State, but it's young talent. If it gets seasoned well enough, then they just play through the scheduling differences, much like the college football playoff. But Texas week 1 for an inexperienced Ohio State team, if they get behind the 8 ball with a loss right out of the gate, and then they're looking at possibly 2 losses in the Big Ten, and a playoff appearance then becomes dicey for Ohio State. We will, of course, make our predictions later in the offseason. Also look at the scheduling from the standpoint of most difficult and the percentage chance of win or loss to the easiest game on the schedule for everybody across college football. So please lock it in here at the Voice of College Football. And again, give me a call Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you next time.